What's going on, Washington fans? Welcome to Taking Command with Josh Taylor. That's right, I am back after a vacation and then getting sick with COVID literally as soon as I got back. Been out for a little while, but I'm so glad to be back because football is so close and training camp starts up this week. So it is finally time to talk about some real football, not just some storylines and crazy talk on Twitter and social media. So I appreciate y'all sticking with me. A lot of love and support on Twitter and on the YouTube page while I was gone. So once again, I appreciate everyone showing support and checking in on me. I'm glad to be back. Still trying to, recover with my voice and everything, but I was done for like 2.5, 3 weeks. It took a while for me to really get back to 100%. But as y'all know, I'm built for this. This is my life. This is what I do. So I'm so glad to be back. I missed it. Been sharing my presence on Twitter. If you don't follow me already, at Josh Taylor FB, been doing some giveaways and stuff like that, like an autographed Terry McLaurin card. So stay tuned. Always got some good stuff coming here on the channel. But on this episode, I'm going to take a quick look at the wide receiver room and situation for the Washington Commanders for the 2022 season. So guys, let's do it. Let's take command. Now, we can all agree that 2021, this offense was so limited. You saw these glimpses of hope and success and a great offense with some good playmakers. Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, Logan Thomas before he got hurt. Curtis Samuel was hurt as well. There's a lot of pieces missing, but then also you saw that it could be better with better quarterback play. And say what you want about Taylor Heinicke. I know there's a lot of fans out there. Nothing against the guy, but the offense was very limited in what it could run. Our scheme, what we run is a West Coast Air Coryell offense that is spreading the field, that is getting vertical, that is having tight ends that can get downfield. And I'm going to talk about tight ends on another episode because there's a lot to unpack there. So stay tuned for that one. But what we do is we're supposed to go deep. We're supposed to go vertical. And we have these guys that can do that, but we just did not see it happen last year. So obviously we saw Terry McLaurin got his bag, well-deserved. And it's because of doing what he did last year, making things happen. When the play is not fair or Taylor Heinicke fights, breaks that tackle against Atlanta, throws up that pass in the end zone, Terry McLaurin did what he had to do to create the plays, to score the touchdowns, big moments. Against the Cowboys, he's getting beat up. He's jumping up in the air, just fighting for every single catch. And that's why we love Terry so much, because he's Terry. He's not going to change. Now, Dyami Brown. There's a lot to unpack with Dyami Brown too. I'm going to talk about him a little bit more in depth, but he didn't get the looks. There was times where he was open last season. There was times you watch the film, and I'm not just even talking about like just watching the game. You watch the all 22. You see the backed up, sideline view, the end zone view where you see him downfield. There's times where Dyami Brown is open. That's who he was as a college player, and it just did not happen last season. The only person I think really could have changed this offense is a healthy Curtis Samuel last year, because what Curtis Samuel did so well in Carolina was take these short, quick passes and make explosive plays out of it. So Taylor Heinicke wouldn't have to, look for Curtis Samuel deep like he did Dyami Brown. He could feast in that short to intermediate game with Curtis Samuel. And I'll talk a little bit more about him too, what I saw lined up out of Curtis Samuel, what we can expect this season coming up. But I think he's the only one that could really change things last year because of how limited it was and how the offense really ran when we're talking about our wide receivers. Now, Carson Wentz, he obviously changed the entire dynamic of this offense. You're going to get the good, the bad, and the ugly of Carson Wentz. I might talk about him on an episode before. Once I see some training camp tapes and stuff like that, I got to see Carson Wentz in person at OTAs. Like I said, I got to see Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, who, man, I'm going to talk about Jahan. But Carson Wentz, we know why we got Carson Wentz. And I don't even think it had to just do with the success he had at the Eagles. You know, he had a better season at the Colts than a lot of people are giving him credit for. Like I said, there's those boneheaded, stupid plays, but you see what Carson Wentz does. 11 50-plus yard touchdowns in the last 5 seasons. Mahomes and Russ both have 13 each. So, like, the big playability, the stretching the field, going deep. Carson Wentz has a cannon of an arm, and you see it in the games. You see it in person. I think fans are going to be impressed when they see Carson Wentz play in person. First off, how big he is, but how much he can stretch the ball down the field. Now, with Terry McLaurin, like I said, he got the bag. That off-the-field stuff, it's done. Business is done. Now it's just straight back to football. Now, Matt Harmon, great follow on Twitter, by the way. He specializes with wide receivers, talking about routes, route percentages, win percentage, success rate, stuff like that. I want to take a close look at what he put out for Terry McLaurin last season. I thought this was really interesting, and I love what he puts out. Now, here's the success by route for Terry McLaurin. So, like I said, reception, you see at the bottom there, great follow on Twitter. Just specializes in wide receivers. This shows you the green is above average, with in the NFL for what wide receivers are doing. So we talk about how limited it was last year, how in the flats, 100%, which is crazy, by the way. Screens, slants, curls, these shorter things, comebacks. There's not one area where Terry McLaurin really, I guess comebacks a little bit, but it's kind of hard for quarterbacks throwing that back throw. It's probably one of the hardest throws, honestly, for a quarterback is those comeback routes, the timing, and you have to be precise on every one of those throws. So obviously, I'll have to go back and watch every single one on these comebacks to see where, Terry kind of struggled. Was it the quarterback throwing, which highly likely, but still, you look at these numbers and you just see, just in 2021 alone, Terry McLaurin in a limited offense made all of these opportunities work. Now, what kind of routes and how often was he really running them? And this is, for me, where it really tells the story. That 9 route, that going deep vertical, like I said, we didn't do it often. That post route, 15.7% above average. That dig route coming across the middle there, 16.1. The comeback at 8%. But, man, you look at the slant, 21.7. And not saying Terry can't make those big plays. You remember against the Eagles not too long ago, these slants where Terry's taking these short passes and making the most of it, breaking tackles, getting to the end zone. But really, I think I can't wait to see the difference in the routes that he runs from 2021 to 2022. How much it really changes. So 94th percentile success rate versus man and press for Terry McLaurin in 2021. Big numbers. So Terry McLaurin, he's one of the top tier wide receivers in the NFL. Against man and press. Doesn't matter if you press him at the line. Doesn't matter, you're getting physical with them right off the bat. Terry's a physical dude. And, we talk about the contested catches with Terry McLaurin. This guy does it all. He had a career best 80.3% success rate versus zone last year. So, man, press, zone, it doesn't matter. Terry McLaurin feasted against all of it. He had 0 drops on 33 deep targets in 2021, which was second in the NFL, and had a 93 receiving grade on contested catches in 2021, which was first place in the NFL. People in Washington know what Terry McLaurin is. Some people outside know what Terry McLaurin is, but there's some people out there that don't. But nonetheless, Terry McLaurin does it all and absolutely deserves that back. I can't wait to see what he looks like with these other weapons. Curtis Samuel finally on the field. Jahan Dotson on the field. So let's talk about Jahan Dotson, 16th overall pick. Did we see it coming? A lot of us know. I had a great feeling that we were going to trade back. I felt like it was going to be for a wide receiver. I said it all off season. For me, it wasn't offensive lineman. It wasn't linebacker. It had to be a wide receiver. They wanted to stack this offense, and that's what they did with Jahan Dotson. You see that Penn State flag, the Washington flag, it all lined up perfect for me. People at Penn State love Jahan Dotson. And I knew what kind of player he was. I loved his game in college. I watched him a ton this past offseason before we drafted him. And I didn't think 16 overall was too high at all. I thought he was going to go to the Dolphins a little bit behind us, but then they got Tyreek Hill, changed things up. So I kind of project him a little bit sooner. But off the field, this guy is so impressive. He reminds me of a Terry McLaurin. He carries himself so well. He is exactly what Ron Rivera was looking for. He's exactly the kind of guy that us fans would want in a Jahan Dotson. Now, Power 5 leaders in Yak over the last 3 seasons. Devontae Smith, who put up ungodly numbers at Alabama. 1,701 yards after the catch in the last 3 seasons. Jahan Dotson had 1,045 Yak, which was second. So Devontae Smith is just in a league of his own. There's a reason why, as a wide receiver, he won the Heisman. But Jahan Dotson was right there, second place. I mean, well above third, fourth, fifth place. But like I said, Smitty was doing his own thing at Alabama. But Jahan Dotson, after the catch, is lethal. Big 10 wide receivers with the lowest drop rates since 2019. You're going to hear some big names here. David Bell out of Purdue went to the Cleveland Browns. One of the most sure-handed guys. My God, that his film was ridiculous. But he wasn't like that fast guy. He's more of a physical, just, solid hands type of wide receiver. 4.2% drop rate. Super low. Jahan Dotson only a 4.9%. Chris Olave at 5.1%. Jahan Dotson had 0 drops on 27 deep targets in 2021, the most in all of the Big Ten. That's Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, David Bell, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Parker Washington. All these big name Big Ten wide receivers, Jahan Dotson led the way. Dotson had 7 touchdowns versus zone coverage in 2021. That is the most in the Big Ten. First off, the guy had 12 touchdowns last year, which is bonkers at Penn State. Say what you want. If you're a Penn State fan, Sean Clifford, kind of limited still. The offense is kind of wonky at times, but Jahan Dotson just feasted in the Big Ten. He got his. I mean, reports already are that Jahan Dotson's one of the most impressive guys on our team. Someone said today on Twitter, media-wise, I forgot who it was, that they think Jahan Dotson has a good chance of being the best wide receiver on our team this year coming up, which is crazy to say. Like, that is crazy to say, considering I'd say Terry McLaurin's a top 10 receiver in the league, but he is that good. I think Jahan Dotson's going to hit the ground running. I think him and Terry are soon going to become one of the best wide receiver duos in the NFL. Hands down. I think this guy's just going to be an electric playmaker on offense, something that we haven't seen in a long time here in Washington. So I just can't wait to see what those two do together on the field. But then you add Curtis Samuel. And I don't care what he didn't do last year. I'm not here to talk about what he didn't do last year because he's hurt. I'm here because I know what he was when he was healthy, when he was in Carolina. I mean, you saw against that game against us. Looks like it's like a 5-yard, 10-yard max, gain on a catch, just a short throw. We're missing tackles. He's breaking loose. He's going up the sideline for 67 yards. Like, holy smokes, this guy's quick. And he's going to stretch the field. He's going to be all over the place. At OTAs, that's the one thing that stood out to me. I don't think our offensive playbook is going to be 100% open at training camp. Shout out to Rio. I know he's going to be at training camp on Friday. And I told him that's the one thing I can't wait to see. And I want him to report back to me on, because I'm not going to be there, is what kind of formations, how are we lining up on offense? Because Terry wasn't there at OTAs. So we saw Jahan Dotson out wide. We saw Curtis Samuel out wide in the slot. But then also in the backfield, going in motion. So pre-snap, it was him. We saw some pistol. Like, you saw some old classic stuff, but it was kind of remixed with all these exciting, opportunities and weapons, and just so many possibilities that could happen with Curtis Samuel starting as a running back, going out in motion real quick into the slot. Linebackers are going to have to adjust. They're freaking out. Like, all right, hold on. We have to account for this guy now. He can do anything. Like, the field stretched. This one linebacker who was really just holding his own in this one side of the field now has to move, opens up the running game. There's just so much that could happen with this offense, and there's a lot to be excited about. So follow Rio if you don't already. If you're watching this, you've got to be following Rio because he's the GOAT for Washington content. But I told him, I want to know what this offense looks like at training camp. And obviously, we're not going to, like I said, we're not going to open up the full playbook and just be like, hey, guys, this is exactly what we're going to run this season. But they're going to be practicing, all these different things, experimenting with all these weapons. J.D. McKissick, Antonio Gibson, do they start, getting in the receiving game more? We saw J.D. McKissick already have a huge role in the receiving game, but Gibson, he was a wide receiver primarily at Memphis, and we know that. Now that we have Brian Robinson at running back, does that take some of the load off Antonio Gibson to be used more in the receiving game? So there's just so much that could happen. And then you throw in a young, promising Dyami Brown, who was one of the most dominant wide receivers at North Carolina. Like I said, he was open in 2021. The offense just did not fit his strengths. It did not really create opportunities for him. He was open. He was making the most of what he could when he was on the field. He had some good flashes that we saw, but it just wasn't there. It just wasn't there. And Taylor Heinicke is not looking to go deep, as often, especially to Dyami Brown at first. So I think this season really opens up the opportunities for Dyami Brown, even if there is, competing with snaps and targets with Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Curtis Samuel now. He specializes in deep threats. Most 40-plus yard receptions since 2019. Devontae Smith and Dyami Brown both were tied for first with 17. Dyami Brown on 20-plus yard throws since 2019 had 26 receptions, which was first, and 13 touchdowns, which was second, and 1,116 yards, which was first. Sam Howell loved Dyami Brown. You put on that tape, there was such a great connection there, and it's why they were so excited that Sam Howell got drafted here, and they've been working out all offseason. Dyami Brown was a straight-up weapon in North Carolina, ran great routes, just excelled in getting open and separation down the field, and just phenomenal hands. The most 20-plus yard touchdowns in the 2021 draft. Devontae Smith had 17, Jamar Chase had 16, and Dyami Brown had 14. So you talk about, Jamar Chase, one of the best wide receivers in the league. Devontae Smith, well on his way as a top wide receiver, had a great rookie year. I'm telling you, the production was there for Dyami Smith. It wasn't Dyami Brown last season that hurt Dyami Brown. It was a limited offense with a limited quarterback play that really took away opportunities for him to excel. It's like driving a two-wheel drive vehicle through the snow. When you're like, hey, I need four-wheel drive to get through this. I have this vertical wide receiver and a quarterback who's not trying to throw beyond 20 yards that often. He's not going to get these opportunities. So if you're a Washington fan, you're excited about this room. Those four guys, and they got some depth behind us. Obviously the question mark is who takes over as this kick returner guy? And Jahan Dotson did it a lot at Penn State. Do you want your 16 overall pick returning kicks and punts? Maybe not. But I think you'll see a good bit of it. I think Ron's not afraid to put him back there because, once again, he creates plays. He makes things happen, and he can flip the field in a heartbeat. So I think Jahan Dotson is going to get a lot of reps back there. I think a lot of people are going to be weary of that because the first time he gets hurt back there, it's like, why is he on kickoffs? But still, these four guys here, you have to be excited. You have to see what is coming out of this offense coming up. There's just so many possibilities. And like I mentioned, with the running backs, who I haven't even talked about yet, with the tight ends, it doesn't even matter if Logan Thomas is there or not. John Bates, who looked great last year, I think he's going to take a step up. And then with Cole Turner, this vertical Eric Coryell tight end, this is exactly what you want in this kind of offense. Cole Turner fits the mold. There's a reason why there's so much hype to it. So I think I'm probably going to talk about tight ends or running backs next, more than likely, in the next video. But you see the possibilities are endless for this offense. I think Washington could sneak into a top 10 offense. Just overall with yardage. You see Carson Wentz throwing bombs, and he's going to throw his interceptions. He's going to make some mistakes. But he's going to make up with it for these bombs to Terry, Dyami Brown, Jahan Dotson, just creating opportunities for Washington. So as training camp nears, something to keep an eye on. Like I said, how do we line up? What is the snap counts really looking like? Who's rotating in and out? Who's getting the more snaps? Who's lined up where? Who's in the slot? Who's on the outside? Is Curtis Samuel in the backfield still a lot? Is he going in motion? What does this look like? So that's something I'm going to keep an eye on. Like I said, check out Rio's channel as well, because I told him to report everything he gets back from training camp. But guys, I appreciate y'all tuning in on this episode. Get excited. Football is here. And the offense is going to be phenomenal. I'll be at the open practice at FedEx Field on the 6th, and I will be at the preseason game against the Panthers as well, which is super close. I mean, literally next week, we're going to be watching Washington football finally, whether it's training camp, open practice, doesn't matter. This team's finally getting together. The business stuff is off the table. You know, we're done with all the paying. Pay Terry, please don't let him go, all this stuff. It's done. It's time to get to some football. So, guys, appreciate y'all tuning in. As always, subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to hit that 1K subscribers coming up soon. Would love to get there before the season. So 1K as soon as possible. Got some sponsorship stuff coming up. I'll announce shortly, but some exciting things coming to the channel. As always, on here with Taking Command with Josh Taylor. I'll see y'all in the next episode. Hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends about me. Appreciate y'all tuning in. See y'all on the next episode.